Hello everyone. Welcome back to my channel. I pray that you're all doing well. If this is your first time here, welcome to the family. I appreciate each and every single one of you guys so much. God bless you. So let us jump right into today's message. A while back, I made this video about a street performer and the lessons that I'd learned from observing him. If you haven't watched the video, please go back and watch it. I'm going to link it somewhere here, and then come back and watch this one. But basically, the street performer just stood there static. He wasn't performing, and he had this collection box where you could put in money for him to start the performance. And so this day I was, walking again, and then I saw this guy standing there again, just not doing anything. However, something happened on this particular day. Somebody actually decided to put money into the box. And I was like, oh wow, this is going to be interesting. I wonder what is going to happen. I wonder what the performance is going to look like. And sure enough, this guy, moved from the podium, and then he spoke and he said, thank you. This is going to be my first performance of the night. I was like, okay. Now, he had these orange cones. So he started taking them one after the other, and he began placing them around himself. So basically, he was creating a demarcation. He was creating a separation between himself and the audience members. And then after he did that, he changed the music, and then the performance began. And this guy was dancing and doing all these robotic moves, and he was super happy, super energetic, super just in the moment, in the zone. He was so in the zone that he even ran to the street, to the road, and just started high-fiving some drivers there and performing there. And then the more he performed, the more people came around. And then the more people put money into the box, and the more ecstatic and the happier he got. And I was like, wow, this was worth watching. This was worth the wait. This was worth, the suspense that I had. This was what the suspense that he had created. And I thought that was beautiful. So now, what did I learn from observing this guy this time around when he actually performed? See, the thing is, this guy knew exactly the type of performance that he wanted. He knew the environment that he wanted for his performance, and so he created that environment. He wanted a demarcation between himself and his spectators. He did not want anybody interrupting his performance or coming into his space. So he made sure that he created the world that he wanted, the performance space that he wanted. I'm going to talk mainly today about the world of dating. So when it comes to dating, it's important for us to know what we want out of a relationship. It's important to know the type of relationship that we want. It's important for us to know the type of partner that we have, that we want. And it's important for us, as we are, knowing or waiting for the type of partner that we have, for us to also begin to create that environment for that to happen. And that happens by us working on ourselves as well. So if you say, for example, that you want a godly relationship, but then you are not creating that environment for godliness, for a godly relationship, by first of all working on your relationship with God, how is that going to happen? So it's important for us to first of all know what we want, and then work towards that, work in that direction. We cannot say that we want somebody that is patient, but we're not working on our own patience as well. We cannot say that we want somebody that is truthful when we're not working on being truthful as well. We have to create that environment. We cannot say that we want a certain type of person, but then we find ourselves going to, certain types of places. We need to create that environment that we want out of a relationship. Now, the second thing that I observed was the fact that this guy set boundaries. He set a demarcation using the cones. It's like, this is my performance space. I don't want anybody coming here because I know what my performance is going to look like, and I do not want to be interrupted. So it's important to know your worth and then set boundaries accordingly. It's important to know your worth and then set boundaries accordingly, because a lot of times when we do not know our worth, it becomes difficult for us to set boundaries because we're not sure if people are going to respect those boundaries, because sometimes we're not even sure that we're deserving of having our boundaries respected. So it's important that we remember what our worth is, and that also begins by us going back to God for Him to remind us, for Him to tell us what our worth is in Him, so that we can set our boundaries accordingly. As a Christian, it's okay to dress modestly. Do not feel like you need to show a lot of skin for somebody to think that you're desirable, because the right person with the same mindset as you is going to find you desirable, is going to find you attractive in your modesty. It's okay to be celibate in a world where being over-sexualized is normalized. It's okay to be celibate in a world where you are told that in order to buy a car, you need to test drive it first. That in order to be in a relationship with somebody, you need to test drive them first. You need to have sexual intercourse with them to know if you're a good match. It's okay to say no to sexual immorality. It's okay to be static in the world of dating. When I mean static, I mean not going from one relationship to another because you are afraid that if you're not going from one relationship to another, you might end up alone. It's okay to be on your own for a season. It's okay for that to happen. It's okay to say no to going clubbing when everybody around you tells you that the best way to have fun is to go clubbing, or that if you're not going clubbing, you're missing out, or if you're not going clubbing, you might not meet your potential future spouse. It's okay to say no to going to places that you know are going to cause you to sin. It's okay to have boundaries. Why? Because the Bible tells us in Leviticus 20:23-24, and you shall not walk in the statutes of the nation which I am casting out before you, for they commit all these things, and therefore I abhor them. But I have said to you, you shall inherit their land, and I'll give it to you to possess, a land flowing with milk and honey. I am the Lord your God, who has separated you from the peoples. This verse is talking about being distinct, being set apart, being separated, being different. You're going into a land where the people do things that I do not like, that I dislike. However, even though you're going into this land, even though you are in this place where people do things that are against the will of God, I want you to do things differently. I want you to be set apart. I want you to be distinct. I want you to distinguish yourself from those people. You're going into a land that is flowing with milk and honey. If a future spouse is what you desire, that desired end is going to come where you're going to have that beautiful relationship according to God's will. But while waiting to get into that land flowing with milk and honey, you need to set yourself apart. You need to have those boundaries, and having those boundaries means that you cannot do the things that everybody around you is doing. And one of such boundaries, like I mentioned already, is sexual purity. That's why the Bible tells us in 1 Thessalonians 4:3-5. It tells us, for this is the will of God, your sanctification, that you should abstain from sexual immorality, that each of you should know how to possess his own vessel in sanctification and what? Honor. Not in passion of lust like the Gentiles who do not know God. So you're supposed to contain yourself. You're supposed to possess your own vessel in sanctification. So it has to do with self-control as well. So even though everybody around you is doing this thing, you are supposed to behave differently. Not like everybody around you, not being lustful, but containing yourself, controlling yourself, knowing that the place that you are going to, according to the promises of God, is a beautiful place. It's a beautiful promise that you're going towards. And the other thing as well is guarding your heart. That's the other boundary. It's not just about your body, guarding your body, but it's also about having a boundary when it comes to your heart. Who are you opening your heart to? The Bible tells us in Proverbs 4:23, keep your heart with all diligence, for out of it spring the issues of life. Keep your heart with all diligence, So you need to protect your heart, because if you allow your heart to just be given away to anybody, you might get to a point where you might become a bitter person. You might get to a point where you might actually miss out on a good thing because you've become so jaded, you've become so bitter that you're unable to recognize a good thing when it comes to you. So it's important that while we are in this season of waiting, that we're able to guard our heart so that it does not get broken by the wrong people or by the wrong person. Guard your heart. Know who you're opening your heart to. So that's one of the lessons. Now, the other thing that I noticed was that with the cones that this guy had, the cones were high enough that you knew not to trespass, but they were not too high that you could not see the performer. They were high enough to give you the signal that this is a no-go zone, but they were not too high that they were blocking the performer. What does this mean? It's important to have standards. It's important to have boundaries. It's important to have qualities that we want in a future partner. However, the standards cannot be so high that they are impossible for a mere mortal to attain. The standards cannot be so impossibly high that nobody is good enough for you. Your standards should be high enough that people know that they need to respect you, that they need to, come straight, come correct, but they cannot be so high that you become this impossible person to reach. You still have to be approachable. You still have to be a nice person. You can have standards and be nice. Do not become this mean person that nobody can talk to. Do not become this unapproachable person that everybody is just afraid of. No, have your standards, but be approachable at the same time. Now, the next lesson that I learned was that somebody will eventually invest in you. Somebody will eventually see you. Somebody will eventually think or realize that you're worth it. Somebody will eventually see you. Really see you. Because this guy was there, just standing there. All his mates, all his fellow performers were performing, doing what performers do. But this guy took a risk. He said, I am going to be different. I'm going to just stand there and be different. I'm just going to stand there and be set apart. And the right person, the person who thinks that I'm worthy enough, is going to invest in me, is going to approach me. And that is what happens with dating. Sometimes we're just so afraid that if we are different, we might miss out. But eventually, somebody that stands for what you stand for is going to see you. Somebody that has the same values as you is going to see you. Somebody that understands you is going to see you. Somebody that, understands the value of your values is going to see you, and is going to recognize you, and is going to recognize that you are worth being approached, and that you are worth being invested in. Somebody is going to see you. It might take a while. But it's going to be worth it in the end. So you do not need to change who you are. You do not need to change your value system because you're trying to bend over backwards to be like what you think somebody wants you to be like. And I'm not talking here about becoming better. There's always room for improvement in every single human being. I'm not saying, you just say, you know what, this is the way I am. I can never change. You have to take me the way I am. No, I'm talking about your core values here. I'm talking about living according to biblical standards. No human being should cause you to want to change the standards that God has set for you. No human being. If somebody is trying to cause you to change those standards, then that person should not be in your life in the first place. Are you going to, make the necessary changes? Yes, because people are different. Compromises are going to happen here and there, but do not compromise your core values. Do not compromise what God wants you to be. And the next lesson is that you might be the person that needs to take a chance on somebody. Just like somebody took a chance on that street performer and invested and put the money, you might also be the person that needs to take a chance on another person. We all have our preferences. Some people like people, they prefer someone that is taller, darker, fairer, slimmer, chubbier, from a particular nationality, from, that speaks a certain language, from whatever. We have those preferences. But maybe, just maybe, this might be a call for you to take a chance on someone that is different. It might be a chance for you to take a chance on somebody that is not what you were expecting in the first place. This performer was different from the other performers in that he was not performing. He was different. So maybe this is a call for you to open up your mind, and while still maintaining your standards, maybe look into your preferences as well. You might be like, I cannot do this nationality at all. But maybe that could be your land that is flowing with milk and honey. Maybe your preference might be that, you want somebody that is this tall. But maybe somebody that is this tall might be your land of milk and honey. You might never know. So it might be it might be time for you to give somebody that is different a chance. And the last lesson is that you will not know what somebody has to offer unless you get close to them. It's kind of following the fourth point. You might not know what somebody has to offer unless you get close to them. So when this guy, when this performer, when the money came in, he changed the music. And then the performance began, and he gave it his all. He performed so well that everybody was fascinated. So you might be looking at somebody and you might not really think that they have a lot to offer, but how would you know unless you try to get closer to them? The people that have been preserving themselves for so long, waiting on the right person, and hopefully working on themselves, they have so much love inside of them that they want to just pour into the right person. And so when you take a chance on that person, when you go towards that person who has that much love to offer, it just begins to overflow. And then you realize, oh my goodness, what a beautiful relationship. It was worth that wait. And so like this, just like this guy went ahead and, you know, gave the performance of a lifetime, so too could this person, you know, that has been, you know, in waiting, you know, working on themselves, doing things that God has called them to do, and working on their weaknesses and trying to be a better person, so that eventually when somebody takes a chance, when somebody, you know, sees them and really sees them, they're able to get into that relationship and they have a beautiful, beautiful relationship according to God's ordinances. So my desire for us all as we watch this video is that we should have boundaries. We should be, because we are set apart, we should know our value and we should know our worth. But while doing that, we should also make sure that we are approachable, so that we do not, you know, chase people away. And while doing that, we should also remember that eventually the right person is going to come, and the right person is going to be willing to invest in us. And while, you know, waiting for that to happen, let us remember it's okay to have boundaries, because boundaries are biblical. Boundaries are God's protection for you. Boundaries are for your own good. So have those boundaries while you work on yourself. Have those boundaries while you wait on God to send that person to you. So be patient while you wait, and be patient while you search, because eventually that person will come. Eventually you'll get into that land of milk and honey, and it's going to be worth it. It's going to be a worthy wait. Okay? All right, guys, that's the end of today's message. I pray that it was a blessing to you. If it blessed you, please share, like, comment, and subscribe. Okay? All right, guys, I'll see you in my next video, God willing. Bye-bye.